Much like its dusty survivors, Wasteland 2 finds strength in cherishing the past. It even manages to highlight a few ways in which the isometric, turn-based role-playing games of yore really were better after all. A surprisingly competent live-action cutscene introduces us to a band of grizzly-bearded biker types and hard-eyed women. Our heroes are the Desert Rangers. They are imperfect and flawed, and much of the following story gains its momentum from the surrounding populace's unwillingness to trust them after past failings. That flashy cutscene is one of Wasteland 2's few nods to the production sensibilities of the modern era. Everything afterwards reveals an old-fashioned drive to make you work for your satisfaction. For example, it disavows heavy voice acting for reams of text, and thanks to good writing, it's a world that often feels real. On the other hand, much as in Divinity Original Sin, Wasteland 2's quest objectives are often frustratingly unclear, and I did run into the occasional bug that impeded my quest progress if I deviated from what must have been the proper sequence of events. What voice work there is in Wasteland 2 is put to effective use. A memorable early quest forces you to choose to save the inhabitants of only one of two communities, and you'll have to listen to the tragic fate of the town you didn't choose over the radio.
Every time we end a life in this godforsaken world, we end misery and bring peace.
The voice work in such cases is uncommonly good. It helps to emphasize that your choices have meaning and that there's a world that exists beyond the action immediately in front of you. When the 50-hour journey is over, these choices are what are most memorable about Wasteland 2. Another way this RPG distinguishes itself is how it makes a welcome break from most modern games by placing the emphasis on an initial 4-person team instead of an individual hero. You can use pre-made characters with role-suggestive names like Big Bert and Pills, but they lack the rich personalities of the supporting cast in games like Dragon Age Origins, and their skills occasionally overlap. You're thus better served by creating your own party. Even then, you'll find yourself limited. The tiny number of stat points available for the daunting number of skill trees means that even with a 4-person party, you'll always have to forego some skill that might make a particular encounter simpler or entirely avoidable. Wasteland 2 does better with player-specific skills once the business of the turn-based combat starts. In keeping with the setting, ammo is scarce, and the rust bucket armaments you're toting have an almost comical tendency to jam and suck up action points in the process of repairing them. It means guns, while powerful, usually aren't as reliable as good old-fashioned beaten sticks, which creates some interesting choices of how to gear your party. Gaps in your team's skill sheets would be a huge handicap, but developer inXile wisely allows you to fill in the blanks with additional companions you'll pick up along the way. Be forewarned, though, that they're prone to ditching you, turning on you, or attacking other NPCs out of turn if they're not fond of some of your decisions. It's a decent combat system that makes most fights interesting and liable to change fortunes in an instant, but playing in long stretches made me fall into a predictable routine that dangerously teetered toward monotony. The strategy involved rarely gets more complicated than ducking behind crates and avoiding the ones that will explode. Playing the lottery of pleasing long-distance gun kills versus ill-timed jams and point-blank misses never reaches the satisfaction so recently found in Divinity Original Sin's flamboyant magic shows. Likewise, if pretty graphics are what you're after, this is the wrong RPG to play. Wasteland 2 plays like a great role-playing game from 10 years ago, and it looks as old as its gameplay. Wasteland 2 might not be the prettiest old-school RPG of 2014, but it captures the harsh, hypothetical realities of the post-apocalyptic American Southwest. Excellent writing, decisions with terrifying consequences, and background voice work that reinforce the human suffering that results from them make it a great, memorable adventure. It's a game about the power of choices, and the few remaining glitches and issues with its combat do little to diminish that power. For more on role-playing games, both old school and new, stick with IGN.
Kathy, are you there? Ranger Citadel calling Ag Center. Do you read me? Ag Center, come in.